All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our week five second live session. We are underway here. We got maybe some people will be joining us here shortly. We talked about communication yesterday at our live session. I know it was Halloween. So if you were busy yesterday and you need to make sure you to watch that archive, I did go over the assignment and our discussion forum in pretty good detail yesterday. So all the information is there. But of course, always, as always, message me and let me know if there's anything else that you need clarification on. We're responsible for the discussion forum and for the assignment this week. And then just a reminder that we do only have one full week of class left. Today is Friday. Obviously, we have today over the weekend, but next week, the end of the week is Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Central is the last day for week 6. But of course, we'll have our live sessions, go over the assignments, etc. But just a reminder for that, please also remember that any makeup assignments have to be turned in by Tuesday of the 5th. Today is the 1st. Happy November, by the way. But that's going to be the last day to get any makeup assignments in. So please message me. I've tried my best to give some messaging out to give everybody a heads up who needs to do some things. And so hopefully we've been in discussions about that. But that time is approaching. So this week we were talking about communication and time management. Yesterday we kind of focused more on the time management part, where we went over kind of some tools that we can use as a chef. Not just in our time management of our our tasks and the things that we use, when we talk about, cooking and things like that, but also time management for our tasks throughout the day. And that's really what the assignment touches on. One of them is, preparing food and trying to get everything ready at the same time. That's kind of a timing thing. And then also just how we plan our day. The second exercise in that assignment is kind of how you're going to get all of the tasks done that a chef needs to do, and basically kind of prioritizing what needs to happen first and kind of arranging your day. And that's a really good skill to just practice, even with simple things like with your assignments and classes and things like that, organizing yourself, and you do this already with your cooking assignments where you plan out how long things are going to take and then plug that into your schedule. And just the more you can kind of think about those things, the better. And then we talked about communication, and we kind of broke it into two stages. One where we have what we called guest facing communication. This is where we're speaking, to our customers and things. And we're going to talk some more about that today. But then also communication with staff, and just, the general communication of things using tools like prep lists, the schedule, which we talked about in week 4, those kind of things that we can use to communicate with the staff just to get day-to-day things done. But then we also touched on, communication with, the guests. And let's talk some more about that today. And so let me share my screen and we'll just go over a few things. All right. Oh, here we go. You would think after 7 years I would have it down pat. Anyways, all right. So communication is key. And so we talked about, with this, let me rearrange a couple things here so I can see. All right. Once we, we talk about, we'll always be communicating with others in hospitality. FOH, which is front of the house, you'll be interacting with guests constantly. Okay. And so some of us might be out, heading towards the front of the house, but it's good just to familiarize yourself with what is actually expected of guest relations out in the front. Sometimes kitchen staff can be accused of being not a people person, right? Maybe less than social people are back in the kitchen, and more social, people, extroverts are out in the front. But it is important, we always have to communicate with each other in the kitchen, but also it's important to understand kind of what's going on in the dining room. But you also, as a manager, want to make sure your cooks and anybody in the kitchen staff that if they are in some reason confronted with a guest, or, they need to know how to operate and act, right? Just to say, somebody's walking through the dining room for any particular reason and a customer stops them and asks them for something. You don't want someone in the kitchen to be like, I work in the kitchen, I'm not doing that. You want to make sure that they're familiar with that stuff. When I worked at a hotel in Little Palm Island, a place down the Florida Keys, the island itself had pathways and walkways. And so when you had to take a boat to work, and we would get to work and walk through the pathways to get to the kitchen. And during that time, you might interact with a guest. And so we had extensive training on what the expectation was for that. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So when we look at communication, that's kind of what we're talking about. This 10-5 rule This is basically when a guest comes within, this is what they would kind of teach us as well, at that place. When a guest comes within 10 feet of you, that's when you start to engage, right? You smile, make eye contact if they're looking at you or not, but it's your job to pay attention to them and to say, you acknowledge that there is a customer in your presence, a guest in your presence. And so you don't want to just look at the ground and walk by and not say anything like you would if you were on the street. You want to engage. If they decide to, you want to be available. How about that? And so when you're 10 feet, you smile, make eye contact, right? And when they get closer to you, then, 5 feet away, that's when we're going to verbally get verbal here and start talking and speaking, clear, professionally, eye contact, no slang, no interruption, right? We're not talking to our friend on the street like, hey, what's up, man? Right? We say, hello, good evening. How are you, ma'am? Or how are you, sir? Those kind of things. And we kind of have this elevated presentation of ourselves. Open body language. You don't want to come across as inhospitable, right? You don't want to just be like, hey, and shrug your shoulders. You want to be presentable and make everybody comfortable. That's what we're going for. And so, good morning. May I help you? What can I do to assist you? Right? If someone's coming this close to you within the operation, they're probably about to ask for something. And it's always good to anticipate that ahead of time. Now, when I worked down in the hotel, we would have famous people come, and we were instructed that we were not to initiate conversation with anybody that's famous, because some of those people want to be left alone. They don't want that interaction. They don't want that, somebody always talking to them. They are enjoying, they have plenty of that in their outside life. They're enjoying some time alone, especially on this place because it was an island. But we were instructed, don't initiate conversation. And it was hard sometimes because one example, if you're old like me or older like me, you grew up in the 80s. Salt-N-Pepa was a rap group, and I loved them so much, right? When I was a kid. Well, Salt from Salt-N-Pepa came to our hotel, and I knew she was there, and I was always on the lookout. And one day I was walking and I saw her with her significant other, and they were kind of walking around, and they asked me for directions to the dive shack, the place to go get snorkels and stuff. And I got to say, and I didn't, unload and say, oh my God, I loved you. I got your album when I was in 4th grade, and I was so excited. I didn't say any of that. I was saying, yes, ma'am, is this, over here? But anyway, my point is, when you're some places have, specific rules for things like that. But when you're speaking with a guest, you always want to be, presentable and helpful, right? So anyway, but that kind of goes without saying. Let's look at another part of this is, so that's our everyday kind of interaction with guests. It's always professional, always welcoming, inviting, right? We're in the hospitality industry, so we want to be hospitable when we're interacting with guests. All right. So then if something does go sideways and we end up with a situation where there is a complaint, this is kind of, let's look back at our slide here. There we go. What we want to do is there's a STARS method. It's basically what it's called. And basically what this does is kind of break this down into stages. And one thing to think about too, when we're dealing with complaints, and it's almost like a mindset that you would have it's almost like a mindset that you go into this with, is that I know we all work very hard in our industry. And let's just say that if you own a place, you understand how much work goes into putting your best foot forward and making the food so good and the atmosphere and everything. And then when someone complains, it can be interpreted as like a personal attack on all of your hard work. You've done everything so well, and then this person's still not happy, right? And so there's kind of an idea that you could make it personal, but what you really want to do is avoid that at all costs and look at it in a different light. And the best way to look at it is be grateful that there's a problem that is being called to your attention. And it's not easy to look at things like that, but it is valuable, because it's almost like the advice of, even if you don't agree with someone, listen to them as if you could learn something from them. And if you practice that, that helps a lot. It helps you not argue with people a lot of times, even if you disagree. Just there's got to be something here in this conversation that I can learn, right? So think about it that way. When a guest brings you a complaint, and then again, remember that we're in the hospitality industry. Personal feelings aside, or whether or not that customer is correct or incorrect, we need to apologize that something has upset them within our operation. And that's not easy, right? It's kind of humbling, right? But to apologize for a fault or an issue. I'm sorry that this is happening, even if it's unjustified, even if it's not, you don't agree with what they're arguing about or what they're upset about, like you don't want to dismiss it because obviously something has happened and this person's had enough of it to say something to you, right? And so being thankful for the problem to get attention. That's okay. So sorry, that's our S in stars, right? Apologize right away. I'm so sorry. And it's not like it's not admitting guilt by apologizing, but obviously there's a problem. So we just need to address that. Regardless of what it is, we just need to say, apologize, for the inconvenience, or apologize for, the scenario that's happening right now, however you want to word that. But thank them. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And that's actually a valuable thing. That's actually a thing that you should be thankful for, because if you're like me, I'm like the worst. I am a restaurant manager's worst kind of nightmare when it comes to an unsatisfied customer, because I rarely will say anything. I just, well, I work in the industry, so I understand things, and I'm pretty lenient when things happen because if I see everybody running around and the dining room's going crazy and my food's taking a while, I can put it together and be like, they're getting crushed back there. I can relax a little bit, but if something goes sideways, I'm the type of person where I most likely will just be like, let's say this steak is, way overcooked, or, yeah, I'd probably send that back. But like this food's just, bland. There's no seasoning. It's kind of cold. The dining room's very loud. The waitresses aren't very nice. The waiter, he said he was doing something. He's not coming back, or whatever the case may be. And then I'll just keep it, and then I'll just won't come back. And I probably will tell people when they ask me about that place, I'll say, yeah, we went there and, the way this happened and this food was this way, and I'll discourage them from going, but I never brought it to the attention of the manager. So my point is, when somebody does bring you a problem, if it's your place and you're the manager, be grateful, because for every one person that does that, there might be other people experiencing that same problem that did not have the courage to say something, or they just dismissed it and they'll never come back. At least this way we can address a problem. All right. So we fix the problem. That's the ACT. That's the A in the stars, right? Fix the problem, whatever the case may be. My food's cold. Let me take that for you. We're going to hit you. We're going to make sure that we get you some hot food. The server took my drink order, but I still haven't seen them. I'm going to track that down. What did you have to drink? And however you need to fix it immediately, just fix it and make that person happy, or, at least smooth it over, right? The best we can. All right. And then and then offer, and then the next one is recover. Offer a free item or a service as an apology. This doesn't always have to be your go-to. You don't always have to comp someone's dinner, meaning take it off the bill, if they didn't like it. You don't always have to do that. Most of the time you'll end up doing something like that. You don't always have to give away a free appetizer, but it's up to you to do these things, and those gestures go a long way. Now, does that get abused? Probably, right? When someone complain, if they eat all 3/4 of it and then say it was gross and they want it comped, some people might be doing those kind of things, but that's few and far between. But my point is, you don't have to throw free things at everybody when they have a small issue, because that does cost you money. It does cost money. If you give away an appetizer, that food cost and all the profit, everything is gone. And that means every other appetizer that you're selling now is making less money. I hope, if that makes sense, that once we start giving away things, it takes the value out of everything that we're actually selling. So there's dollars associated with it. So you use it wisely, but definitely offer something, as an apology. And then this last one's the super important part: talking with the team about what went wrong. It doesn't help if 10 customers say, the fish just didn't taste very fresh today. If they all say that to their server, and the server says, okay, we'll, gives you this or that, and then nobody tells the chef, I had 3 tables say that the fish didn't taste very good. We might need to check that out. And the chef's just sending it out to everybody, right? We need to communicate what the problem was, or if something took too long, if there was a hiccup in service where all the appetizers came out with the entrees, right? We need to address that with the team and say, hey, we need to make sure that we're putting in the appetizer order. Once that food comes out, that's when and do some retraining and kind of educate them on how to to stagger service so that we don't bring everything out at the same time. Those are examples, but what the follow up with a complaint with your own team is super valuable, and we always want to be doing that. So just something to think about as far as following up with that. Now, we live in the online era. I'm old enough to know or remember when we did not have the internet, but we do. And we have social media. All right. And so people can, and it facilitates more, it makes it easier for people like me that don't want to say something in the restaurant to then go home and post it online. And the problem, or one of the whatever it is, what it is that people are less reserved online than they are in person, right? So they might go home. You might, is everything okay? Yes, it's fine. Thank you. And then go home and rip the restaurant apart online. Everything from the service to the dining room smelled bad to this happened, this, and just totally destroy them, right? And that can happen. But first, and then when you see those reviews, if we're talking about Yelp or anything, Google reviews or anything, read the review carefully to see what the specific complaint is, right? And be mindful of discerning tone. So what we're talking about is what is actually going on here, right? Because you don't know, did the person have a horrible day before they even got to your restaurant, and then that was the last straw and just set them off? Are they complaining about just everything? Do they say something like, this place is horrible, we're never coming back, and that's it? Because it's not specific. So, but if they say, we waited 45 minutes for a table, then we waited another 30 minutes for someone to even come to our table and take our drink order. Like, that's a specific issue. And that's what you really need to, as a manager. Again, remember, we're looking at this as a tool to become better at what we're doing. So when you read that, you want to read that and be mindful of exactly what was the actual problem. All right. And then look into your restaurant policies and procedures and see if it's validated, and say, well, okay, Friday night, yeah, we were on a wait, and then we were short staffed by 3 people. We had 2 call outs, and one person cut themselves and went home early or something. And so kind of diagnose what exactly within your power, when did that happen and what was going on at the time, right? And kind of see what's going on. Then again, we're going to apologize, regardless of our guilt, regardless of the situation, whether it's justified complaint or not. And that doesn't mean like, publicly just say, we know we're horrible, right? We don't want to do that, but this person has an issue. So first of all, we want to apologize, then fix the problem that we identified, offer them something for their trouble, and then thank them again. But never, this is the last part really, is that, and you have to be careful. You can't go give everybody that gives you a bad review something free, because what's going to happen? There are going to be people that say, hey, all you have to do is say that you didn't like your dinner and you're going to get a free appetizer at this place, right? You don't want to be known for something like that. So you have to, use your judgment and make sure you're doing things correctly. But this is the last one. Never respond with a personal attack on the reviewer, right? And that's, I know it could probably be hard not to do that, right? Well, because like I said, we work very hard to be perfect. Our industry demands perfection, and we go very, very far to try to provide that. And then if somebody is, especially if it's an unjustified complaint, like they ordered a mid-well steak, you brought them a mid-well steak and they said it's overcooked, but it was perfectly medium well. And it's like, that's what you ordered. I didn't make you order it that way. That's your problem, right? You're the one that doesn't know how to order a steak. You don't want to put that on an online post, right? You don't want to reply to a customer or a guest that way. You might want to, but what happens is when you see a business personally going back and forth with somebody on an online review, other people can see that, and it's just not professional, right? What happens in the best part about social media posts and things like that is that the truth will come out if you're just open and honest about things. If for some reason, the person just kept pressing about this steak, they overcook their steaks, you could, in a way, say, what happened, we think, is that you ordered the steak medium well. Regardless of how it came to your table, we are certainly, apologetic that you did not enjoy it. We want all of our guests to enjoy their food. And so we will do anything to make sure you smooth over this experience. And then when someone reads that, they can put together themselves. That person ordered their steak medium well. This restaurant gave them a medium well steak, and this person doesn't like it, right? So you can draw your own conclusions when you're reading reviews. You don't have to go and say, well, you need to learn how to order a steak, right? That's the last thing we want to do. We want to be professional when we're talking, regardless of the situation, right? And it's hard to separate your feelings from, guest relations, but but I guess that could be one reason why, back of the house cooks and, chefs, why we like it back there, because we don't have to do these things very often. But as an owner operator, if you have your own business, it's definitely something that you need to put in the front of your mind. Just this impeccable service, regardless of the situation. You are there to provide you're in the hospitality industry. You're there to be hospitable and make the guest happy. And some people are never going to be happy, but you do your best, right? And when you do that, you'll get the rewards of that. Return visits, we always want to make sure we take care of the people who are taking care of us, all right? When I worked in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, they called locals. They even offered things like locals discount. If you could show an ID that said you were from the Outer Banks, you actually got a discount at certain restaurants, because they want those people to be excited about their place. They want to have regular customers. And in the Outer Banks, in the wintertime, everything shuts down, and small places rely on those locals to keep them going through the non-tourist seasons. So they would very, very much want to take care of their own community. But this is a good, interesting factor. 80% of your revenue can come from 20% of your customers. That's repeat business, right? And that's why we stress things like consistency in our plating, consistency in our food with our recipes, because if you're like me, I'm one of the return customers that I'm going to order the same exact thing I ordered last time, almost without fail. I just latch on. That's my personality. I have a ribeye sandwich at a place right down the street from me. I've been eating that every time I've gone there for 5 years now. But ribeye sandwich with French fries, that's my thing. I love it. But if I went there and all of a sudden they're, half portions, or they, we, instead of making the French fries here, we started buying crinkle cut fries from Walmart, and that's the ones we're cooking. I'd be like, oh man, I'm a repeat customer, and so you have to take care of your repeat customers, identify who they are. Things like a bartender. This is where your front of the house training comes in, where someone comes in and a bartender knows what drink a person wants, or they sit down and the server knows that they really, really liked the calamari appetizer last time, and they say, hey, I remember you had the calamari last time. Tonight we have soft shell crabs, and we're kind of cooking them the same way. We're going to flash fry them really fast. They're in season right now. They're amazing. Do you want to try those instead of the calamari? Like, those are things that make people happy to be in your restaurant. They feel comfortable. They feel like they're known. They feel more inclined to come back. And the more people you can get on board as repeat customers, the better off you're going to be on your bottom line. That's for sure, because they're the ones that spend the money. We talked about timelines. We did go over the assignment a bit as well. It's really about it as far as customer relations. Let's see. We did the complaints. We talked about the 10-5 rule, and then just communication in general. So for this week, we're really looking at a couple things for the assignment. One thing that's definitely want to stress, and let me share my screen here and we'll look at the assignment again real quickly. All right. Let's go to our class page here. So we do have a discussion forum and a assignment this week for week 5. Our discussion forum, very straightforward. We've got somebody posted already and they're fantastic. Remember, y'all, discussion forums are very heavily weighted on your final average, so please participate in those. For our discussion, we want to describe a high stress situation that you've experienced, or if you've never been in a food service setting, something you could imagine. And the examples we gave yesterday were things like the printer stops working, someone cut themselves and went home, and we're now down a person in the kitchen. The food order didn't show up. Someone called out sick. There was a fire. There's a million things that go wrong in the kitchen. And so we can think of one of those. And then what are some things you did do if it actually happened, or some things that you would do to problem solve and maintain a positive customer experience? So let's just say the food order didn't come in, the truck didn't come in, and it had all of the shrimp on it. And we're 86 shrimp, but we've got people in there that really want to have that. Maybe we rework a dish and say, you know what, we didn't get fresh shrimp in today, but the fried seafood platter now is going to come with, instead of 3 large scallops, we're going to do 6 large scallops on the plate. However you're going to alter your plays to make that happen. That's the first part of the question. And then the second part, how would you communicate with your customers and staff? How would we let them know? In that case, we would say, all right, listen, we'd have a little meeting with our servers and say, look, we're out of shrimp. We don't have that, but on the fried platter, we're actually going to do all scallops along with the fried oysters, whatever else goes on there. We're just taking the shrimp out and we're putting scallops on. So everybody make a note in your book. And if someone's about to order that, make sure it's clear to your customer. You can even upsell it because the scallops are fantastic, or however you want to handle that. But that's something that you want to communicate to your team as well. All right, then we also have our assignment, which is right here. And this is, oops, no, I don't want to do that. I want to access the link. It'll prompt you to make a copy of this. And then once we have that, all right, so we have two situations. One's going to be a prep. And again, I went over this pretty in detail yesterday at the live session, but a lunch for 100 people, we're basically going to make a timeline of bullet points. And I also wanted to show you in the slides, there is a, down here, sample. All right, this is not what we want to do. We don't want to do a paragraph to describe the situation. What we want is a timeline. What time are we going to do these things? All right. And so when you look at your assignment, it gives you some items here. We have to be done by 12 o'clock at the absolute latest. This takes 30 minutes. This takes 15 minutes. This takes 45 minutes to prep, but then there's 2 hours of baking. There's 30 minutes of baking here. So how are we going to put these things together? And there is a specific way that would work the best, but back it up and give yourself a timeline. Now, if you want to say, I'm going to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning and do all the prep, then, however you want to do that. But we do want to make sure that we have it set up and ready to go at 1 o'clock. And remember, food needs to be hot. Things need to be fresh. All right. Then the second situation is going to be our day-to-day as a chef. These are all the things that we need to do today. All right. Inventory, the food order. We have to do cost control sheets. And then Tuesday, the schedule has to be posted tomorrow, and then some employee evaluations that are due next week and some the week after. So there's two parts. One is what we need to do, and then when are we going to do that? All right. And so here's a few questions. What are the most important things to do today? If we're going to do this today, what do we need to do? Here's a cheat, or here's the answer. Some of these are due next week, and some are the week after. None of these are due today. Employee evaluations. So that's not going to be something that we really have to do today. If you find a way to do that, that's totally fine. But we do have to get the food order in today. Has to be in today by 2 o'clock, or nothing's going to be here tomorrow. So that's priority, right? So that's your inside tip on the assignment. Create a timeline. So again, we're back to the things that we need to do today. And then what can we do later if we need to, right? So the answer to that would be, something like that, right? We can do that as later. We don't have to prioritize. So that's our assignment in our discussion forum and the material for the week. So if you have any questions, if you need anything at all, please reach out. The takeaway for housekeeping is definitely going to be our makeup assignments. Please contact me so we can get our plans together and make sure that we've already communicated that and what we're going to do. I know that discussion forums, if you need to complete those, they hold a lot of weight on your final grade. I have seen students pass or fail based off of discussion forum participation. So it can take you over the top and you continue to the next class, or it can bring you down and you repeat and pay for this class again. We don't want to do that. As much as I love hanging out with y'all, I don't want you to have to do that. I'd rather do that in a setting outside of class after we're finished. So anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Please do contact me if you have any questions or any issues. I'm always around to help you out. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for a live session. Y'all have a good one.